I remember seeing Remco get within a couple feet of her location. And then he got shot in the head and came flying back out. I mean, literally flying out. I hadn't accepted that he was mortally wounded at that time. I think it was just denial. For him to sit there and be perfectly still and look at me and just looking at me with those eyes, yeah. He was kind of like he was saying bye.
That was retired Senior Chief Petty Officer Mike Toussaint. His military service dog, Remco, was killed during a failed raid in 2009 to rescue Bo Bergdahl. And tonight, there is some other shocking news in the Bergdahl case that would certainly upset him and the many others who risked their lives to bring Bo Bergdahl home safely. The Army is considering the request that he be compensated $300,000 in back pay for the time that he spent in captivity. Just last week, Bergdahl pled guilty to deserting his agency, his group, and he was dishonorably discharged from the Army. He was given no time behind bars, which outraged many in the military who we spoke to here. But now Ben Collins joins me, former Special Forces officer who served 3 tours in Afghanistan. Ben, good to have you with us tonight. So how does a convicted deserter who got a dishonorable discharge qualify to be paid by the U.S. military?
Well, I think the key thing here is the fact that he did just plead guilty to desertion. So normally, if a soldier's captured and they're officially a prisoner of war, and while they're a prisoner of war, they still accumulate rank, so they're still making rank during the normal time block. And all the years that they're away, all that pay that is accumulated, they get back. The difference here is Bergdahl is not a prisoner of war. He was not a prisoner of war. He's now an admitted deserter. So he made the decision to walk off that base. He walked into the hands of the enemy. He was not a prisoner of war, and he shouldn't get that money back, in my opinion.
But, I mean, there are concerns that he might get it. The decision hasn't been made yet, but we know that the judge felt that there were mitigating circumstances in this case, and he gave him no time behind bars, regardless of all the things that we just talked about. So do you think there's a chance that the argument might be made and might be successful?
Well, look, I couldn't believe that he got off with no jail time. So certainly I could see, the bureaucratic process figuring out some way to get him his money back. And if that's the case, look, I hope every one of those families of the 6 soldiers that died and the wounded, I hope they take him to civil court and they get every penny of that and every penny that guy stands to make for the rest of his life, for that matter.
Yeah. You look at the things that Bo Bergdahl said in the court process. He said, I understand that leaving was against the law. He uses the word leaving. He knows that he left of his own volition, and everybody that we've spoken to who was part of that group knew that he left. And you listen to Mike Toussaint, he says, I know, we all knew that, but we went to find him because that's what we do. We're not going to just leave him out there, even if he walked off on his own. Go ahead.
And Toussaint, look, that service dog Remco showed more honor and courage than Bergdahl did. And this drives at the heart of something for the military personnel. We use words like, the brotherhood and warrior ethos and all that for a very good reason. And I know that sounds archaic in today's society. But at the end of the day, you're talking about young men and young women that find themselves in the most unimaginable events when their friends are dying and they are told to stand up and move forward in combat. And I'm going to tell you, where that courage comes from is love. And it's love for the men and women on their right side and the faith that they're going to stand up and move forward too. And that's what Bergdahl betrayed. So it's that feeling of betrayal and that base point that soldiers and Marines and airmen that they feel together. That's what he betrayed. Well, so there's the legal part in this, but I can tell you that the thing that hurts us the most is that love of his fellow soldier that he just got up and left in the middle of the night.
I hear you. Ben, thank you very much for being here tonight. We'll see what happens with this case.